Hi, I'm Father Nicholas Gruner. You're here in my office here in Fort Erie and the Fatima Center. And we're talking about, people have asked me the question about the council, and they find sometimes when I talk about the faith, they wonder, but what about the council? The council seems to contradict what you said. And so the answer very simply is, of course, that the dogmas of the faith, that is, the definitions, are what counts. It's not simply because a group of bishops, or all the bishops, meet together with the Pope at a council, that therefore everything they say is binding. No, the definitions of the church are what are binding. Now, the definitions of the church, that is, it has to have the Pope and it has to have the bishops. First of all, the Pope can define all by himself, or the Pope together with the bishops can define by themselves, but they have to express that they are actually defining and that they are binding the faithful that to believe something, not as something that a new teaching, but believing something that the church has always taught, but now we're explaining it and we're making it very clear. It means this, it doesn't mean that. And of course, you'll find that explained very clearly in the First Vatican Council in 1870, and it's defined that it's not to give a new doctrine as the church has taught. So giving a new doctrine by council is impossible. It cannot bind you. It has to be a doctrine that the church has always taught, which is found in sacred scripture or in sacred tradition. It cannot be something, well, we have a new doctrine today and we're going to define that. That's outside the scope of a council, outside the scope of a pope, for that matter. So, but what has been defined of the faith and morals is true for all time. So we cannot have a definition that there are three persons in the Blessed Trinity, and then we have a council, Vatican Council III, which comes forward and say, now we define that there are four persons in the Blessed Trinity. I'm sorry, the truth is the same today, yesterday, and forever. As it just says, St. Paul says, Jesus Christ the same today, yesterday, and forever. And so, if the truth contradicted itself, then it wouldn't be the truth. The truth cannot be, if there are three persons of the Blessed Trinity today, and yesterday, there have to be three persons of the Blessed Trinity tomorrow. Even a Pope and a Council together could not define that there are four persons. Not that anyone is even suggesting you're going to try. The same thing for the number of seven sacraments. There are seven sacraments. It's been defined by the Council of Trent that this has been the teaching of Scripture, teaching of sacred tradition. This is the teaching of the Church. The Church cannot come tomorrow and say there's 8 sacraments or 6 or some other number. There's 7, only 7. Not more, not less. 7. Okay, and so forth. It's important then for us to realize that the definitions, why do we believe? Again, we believe because God has revealed it. God cannot lie. God cannot be mistaken. He knows everything. So when God tells us something, He's telling us something that's true. But if it was true last year, last week, 50 years ago, 500 years ago, it's true today, when we're talking about the eternal truths that are necessary for your salvation. And so it's important for us to have these concepts and ideas clearly in our mind. So when it comes to the Second Vatican Council, if there's something new in the Second Vatican Council, which is contradicting what the Church taught before, then it cannot be true. It cannot be binding. And of course, the Second Vatican Council itself said we are not defining anything. So if they didn't define it, and the previous council or the popes defined it before, then obviously you have to get rid of the stuff that's new, that contradicts what was taught before by the Church. That's got to be as simple as pie. Now, I mentioned at the end of recently that the council was also under a constraint that most people don't know. You see, the council, although the opening speech by Pope John XXIII said that, we're free and we're speaking clearly and so forth, the fact is John XXIII and Cardinal Montini, who later became Paul VI, and Cardinal Willebrands and Cardinal Tissera had made a deal, had made a backroom agreement with the Patriarch of Moscow. Now, what was this deal? It didn't concern the Patriarch of Moscow so much, except in their quote-unquote patriotic mode. They agreed to not criticize communism. Now here you have a great shame, a great crime committed against humanity, that over 1 billion people are enslaved by communism. And they're living behind the Iron Curtain. I mean, I actually saw this curtain. I went from Austria into Hungary, and it's iron. I mean, you got these barbed wire fences, you got these towers 200 feet up in the air. When they changed the guard, it's 3 people they changed with submachine guns because they're afraid the other 2 might run. So you have to have more collusion with 3 of them, and the fields are plowed up for 200 yards wide right around the border, so that if anyone walks through them, they're going to get blown up by a mine of some sort. So it's an Iron Curtain. They some wag tried to suggest that it was done because they were trying to keep people out from this paradise. No, the only people I know that was there for had to pay $10,000 to find somebody to lead them out so they wouldn't get blown up or shot on the way out. That's why the Berlin Wall was there. But what I'm getting at is very simply that this is an evil that the whole world knew about, and yet John 23rd and his intimate cardinals agreed not to denounce communism. Now here's a council called to deal with every problem that the world is facing. Not to say this is the only problem the world is facing, but certainly it's a major problem when 1 billion people are imprisoned in the Iron Curtain. Why would the council not deal with this, and not at least address it? In fact, 450 council fathers. At that time, there were 2,500 bishops. 1/5 of them, or close to 1/5 of them, put in a petition through the right channels to put this on the agenda. The petition was lost. It was claimed falsely that it wasn't put in on time and this and that. All that's lies. Now the real reason was because they had a deal. The deal was the Vatican-Moscow Agreement. The deal was to not discuss the problem of communism at the council. How do we know that? Obviously this took place, but how do we know that? Well, we have that on the testimony both of the Communist Party itself as well as the Catholic Party. We have this referred to in French newspapers. Both the Communist Party, l'Unité, as it's called, or was called then, talked about it in January, I believe, in 1963. It was also referred to in La Croix, in the French Catholic paper around the same amount of time. And what I'm trying to get at is that both sides acknowledge it exists. Also, you can see that the council never talked about it. And to this day, the church doesn't talk about it. Except for a small interregnum from January 1984 to September 84, when John Paul II and Cardinal Ratzinger did actually talk about communism. But they didn't use the word. They were careful enough not to use the word. And they talked about this crime of our time and so forth. And Ratzinger was quite eloquent on it. But still careful not to break because they were saying, look, you guys have come too close, we're pushing back here. But my point being is that under any constraint, whether it was communism or capitalism, what doesn't matter, they made a deal with some worldly powers to not discuss certain things which should have been on their agenda. And that is the truth. That is, if you want the documents, we've got magazine, you can go to our website. I'm sure that we can perhaps put them up on the screen and tell you which articles there are proving that the existence of the Vatican-Moscow Agreement. And this Vatican-Moscow Agreement has vitiated the moral authority of the council as well. And it's important for us to realize that besides that, we have the word of the council itself saying, whatever is new, whatever is novel, be on your guard, be careful. That is an official part of the council, and that they did say. Remember, pray the rosary every day, and don't be deceived by the deception from the highest places, even the Vatican, as we're told by Cardinal Chappi, that the great apostasy in the church begins at the top, and the council is one place to start looking for where that apostasy starts. God bless you.